I was 33 years old the night my brother, Liam, decided to use me as a prop in his grand performance. The ballroom was a symphony of imported orchids, crystal centerpieces, and the soft glow of 1,000 flashbulbs. Liam, resplendent in his tailored tuxedo, gripped my wrist, his fingers locked over my pulse, and dragged me across the polished floor. He wasn't asking if I wanted to meet his new father-in-law. He was presenting me as a punchline. He stopped in front of Marcus Sterling, a man who owned half the logistics tech in Silicon Valley, a titan of industry. Liam pointed at me, a wide, practiced smile on his face. Marcus, he projected, his voice oozing the effortless charm he reserved for investors. I want to introduce you to my sister, Ava. This is our family failure. My parents, champagne flutes in hand, materialized behind him. We try not to brag about her, my mother added, her voice light and practiced, a subtle apology for my very existence. They waited, expectant, for the billionaire to laugh. But here's what none of them knew. I wasn't a failure. I was the person holding the keys to the empire they were trying to buy their way into, and the man they were trying to impress already knew it. The wedding was at an estate perched dramatically over the Pacific. California money has a distinct sound, a string quartet playing over the rhythmic whisper of the ocean, the almost silent precision of caterers. I'd spent the first 2 hours of the reception tucked away at table 42, a back corner near the kitchen swing doors. A draft of cold air would hit my shoulders every time a waiter pushed through. I didn't mind the cold. I watched the staff, charting their paths through the room, calculating their routing efficiency. My brain maps systems automatically: flow, bottlenecks, dead zones. I'm a data systems architect. I look at complex networks and locate the hidden pulse. My family looked at me and saw a void. Liam was marrying Elise Sterling, a sharp woman, the CFO of her father's division. Marcus Sterling, her father, built his fortune on ruthless logic and unshakable data. My parents had spent the last year treating this engagement like a corporate acquisition. For a decade, they had funded Liam's startup failures, covered his venture capital losses, paid for his luxury loft, and bankrolled his image as a visionary founder. Meanwhile, I paid my own state college tuition by working night shifts at a server farm. In their eyes, Liam carried the potential. I just carried a laptop. So when Liam grabbed my wrist, it wasn't out of brotherly inclusion. He needed a prop. He needed to show Marcus Sterling that he was the apex predator of our family, the shining success standing next to the disappointment. He pulled me to the center of the room, near the head table where Marcus stood, flanked by 3 men in dark suits, a glass of scotch in his hand, the amber liquid catching the light. Marcus, Liam said again, pulling me forward. This is our family failure. My mother stepped up, offering a soft, apologetic smile. We try not to brag about her. She just does little computer projects, nothing like Liam's vision. Liam extended his free hand toward Marcus, expecting a handshake, a shared joke, an acknowledgement of his superiority. Marcus Sterling did not look at Liam's hand. He did not laugh. The silence stretched, 5 seconds, then 10. It was long enough for the confident curve of Liam's jaw to tighten. The string quartet played on, but the air within our small circle turned to ice. Marcus lowered his glass, his gaze moving from my face to the posture of my shoulders, taking in the cheap fabric of my dress, and then locking onto my eyes. He stopped swirling his drink. The ice settled. So it is you, Marcus said, his voice barely carrying over the music, but with the weight of iron. This is unexpected. Liam blinked, his hand dropping to his side. Sir, I just meant. You can stop talking now, Marcus interrupted. He didn't raise his voice, didn't break eye contact with me. The dismissal hit Liam like a physical blow. The golden boy, the tech visionary, swatted away like a nuisance in front of his new wife's father. My father stepped forward, attempting to salvage the moment. Marcus, I think there's a misunderstanding. Ava is just a ghost. A ghost who builds better architecture than anyone in this room, Marcus interrupted again, handing his glass to one of the men in dark suits. My mother let out a nervous, confused breath. Liam stared at me, his mouth slightly open, the smirk entirely gone. The reality of the moment was failing to process in his mind. The sister he had spent his life stepping on had just been recognized by the man he was trying to worship. Marcus gestured toward the open glass doors leading to the moonlit terrace. "Walk with me, Ava." He didn't wait for my answer. He turned and walked toward the night air. I looked at Liam. His face was pale, his eyes darting between me and the retreating billionaire. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply pulled my wrist out of his loosened grip, adjusted my sleeve, and followed Marcus out the door, leaving my family standing in the wreckage of their own punchline. The terrace air was sharp, laced with salt and the faint scent of eucalyptus. Marcus closed the heavy glass doors behind us, cutting off the string quartet and the suffocating heat of 100 networking guests. Out here, the Pacific Ocean rolled against the cliffs in a steady, rhythmic pulse. It sounded like logic. It sounded like a system functioning exactly as designed. Marcus walked to the stone railing and rested his hands on the cold surface. He didn't speak immediately, looking out at the dark water, letting the silence clear the noise of the ballroom from our ears. I stood a few feet away, keeping my posture neutral. I was used to powerful men needing a moment to process the fact that the person who solved their impossible problem didn't look the way they expected. 2 years ago, Marcus began, his voice calm and level, blending with the sound of the waves. The West Coast shipping ports went dark. A coordinated ransomware strike hit the central dispatch servers. Every container manifest, every rail transfer, every customs clearance vanished behind a cryptographic lock. I knew the event well. It had made national news. Cargo ships sat anchored in the bay like ghost towns. Freight trains idled on the tracks. Every hour the system remained locked cost the industry tens of millions in spoiled goods and broken contracts. Sterling Logistics was hemorrhaging capital, Marcus continued. My internal teams were paralyzed. The federal cyber units were offering timelines measured in weeks, not days. And then, at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday, a patch arrived in my chief security officer's inbox. No name attached, just a generic email address and a string of executable code. He turned his head to look at me, the ambient light from the ballroom casting sharp shadows across his face. "It was a ghost routing algorithm," he said. "It didn't try to break the encryption. It simply built a new temporary highway around the infected sectors, hijacking secondary nodes to keep the freight moving while the main system sat in quarantine. It was elegant. It was invisible. It saved my company nearly $1 billion in lost revenue and penalties. I had never told anyone I was the one who sent that patch. It was a late night, a challenge I couldn't resist. I had seen the news, the chaos, and the sheer inefficiency of the proposed solutions. So I built a workaround, a digital bypass, and sent it anonymously. I didn't want credit. I just wanted to see if it would work. My team spent months trying to find the source, Marcus went on. We tracked the IP, the routing, the unique cryptographic signature of the patch. We found a server farm in Nevada, a shell company, and a single, untraceable login. We called the architect Ghost. We knew Ghost was good. We knew Ghost was brilliant. We just didn't know Ghost was you. I met his gaze. I didn't think anyone would ever find out. "I have a talent for finding the best," he said, a faint smile touching his lips. "And I've been trying to recruit you for the last year. My head of security has been leaving cryptic messages on the dark web, trying to lure you out. He even tried to set up a fake conference in Berlin." I remembered those. I'd found them amusing. A game of cat and mouse I hadn't realized was being played by Marcus Sterling himself. "I saw the messages," I admitted. "I thought it was a rival trying to poach my work." "No," he chuckled softly. "It was me. And now, here you are, at my daughter's wedding, being introduced as the family failure. The irony is almost poetic." He paused, looking back out at the ocean. "I'm about to close a major acquisition, Ava. Aegis Logistics. Your brother's company." My stomach tightened. I knew about Aegis. Liam had been hyping it for months, but I also knew it was built on a house of cards. "I know," I said. "I've seen some of their public-facing architecture. It's ambitious." "Ambitious is one word for it," Marcus agreed, his tone hardening slightly. "My due diligence team has flagged some inconsistencies. Their user growth numbers are astronomical, almost too good to be true. And their server load data doesn't quite align with their reported traffic. It's almost as if they're running a ghost town. My heart pounded. He was describing exactly what I suspected. Liam had been fabricating user data, running bot farms to inflate his metrics and make Aegis appear far more successful than it was. My brother wasn't just a failure, he was a fraud. I can tell you exactly why that is, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I have access to their backend. I can show you the ghost servers, the fabricated traffic, the entire bot farm operation. I can show you the real numbers. Marcus turned to me, his eyes sharp and analytical. You have proof? I have undeniable proof, I confirmed. I've been tracking Liam's activities for months. He's not just exaggerating, he's committing wire fraud and investor deception. If you buy Aegis, you'll be buying a hollow asset, and you'll be implicated in his scheme. A long silence stretched between us, punctuated only by the waves crashing against the cliffs. Marcus Sterling, the man who built an empire on ruthless logic, stared at me, processing the implications of what I had just revealed. The weight of his decision hung in the air. "Walk with me back inside, Ava," he finally said, his voice low. "I think we have some important matters to discuss, far more important than champagne and wedding cake." We re-entered the ballroom, the noise and warmth washing over us. Liam and my parents were still standing exactly where I had left them, their faces a mixture of confusion and growing panic. As Marcus Sterling, the man they desperately wanted to impress, walked past them with me by his side, he didn't even spare them a glance. He led me directly to a secluded study off the main hall, leaving my family to grapple with the seismic shift that had just occurred. The next few weeks were a blur of intense meetings, data analysis, and legal consultations. I provided Marcus Sterling with everything I had: the detailed logs of Liam's bot farm, the evidence of fabricated user growth, the shell companies, and the financial discrepancies. My anonymous patch had saved his company a fortune, and now my meticulous data architecture was saving him from a catastrophic acquisition. Liam's wedding, meant to be his crowning achievement, quickly unraveled. The due diligence on Aegis Logistics was halted, then formally terminated. The news spread through the tech world like wildfire. The Sterling acquisition was off, and whispers of fraud began to circulate around Liam's name. My parents, desperate to salvage their carefully constructed image, called me incessantly. "Ava, you have to stop this!" My mother pleaded one night, her voice a frantic whisper. "Liam is devastated. He's crying. You're ruining the most important week of his life over some minor computer glitch." I closed my eyes for a fraction of a second. The narrative had already been rewritten. Liam hadn't confessed to the bot farm, to the Nevada Shell Company. He had run home to his enablers and painted himself as the victim of a vindictive sister, weaponizing a trivial error. "It's not a minor glitch, Mom," I said, my voice flat. "He's faking his user data. The entire startup is a ghost town." "Every new business takes time to find its footing," she argued swiftly, her defense mechanism triggering without hesitation. "He just needs this merger to go through so he can hire more people. You know how the tech world works. Everyone exaggerates a little bit until they get established. Why do you always have to be so rigid? Why can't you just let him have this victory?" Her defense was too smooth, the pivot too fast. A cold realization washed over me, settling deep into my chest. She wasn't shocked by the concept of Liam fabricating his success. She was only shocked that I was refusing to look away. "How long have you known?" I asked. "Known what?" She deflected, her voice tightening. I looked at the mortgage document on my screen. The date of the filing was 6 months ago. My father, William, couldn't encumber 3 commercial properties without his wife's signature on the secondary loan documents. California is a community property state. My mother, Susan, had to sign the paperwork. "You signed the deed of trust, Mom. You knew Dad leveraged the commercial properties to keep Aegis Logistics afloat. You knew Liam was out of capital half a year ago, and you both risked your own financial survival to hide his failure." Silence fell over the line. The crying stopped. The fragile tremor vanished, replaced by the heavy, shallow breathing of a woman who had just been stripped of her favorite disguise. Enablers don't wield swords, they wield guilt. They cushion the favored child by sacrificing the scapegoat. and they build their entire identity around the illusion of domestic perfection. Susan knew Liam was a fraud. She knew the empire was fake, but she preferred the comfortable lie over the ugly truth. She preferred the catered weddings and the country club prestige, even if it meant living on the edge of a financial precipice. "Your father is under an immense amount of pressure," Susan said, her tone shifting from sorrow to a cold, defensive whisper. The real estate market shifted. "We did what we had to do to bridge the gap until the buyout clears. When Marcus signs those papers, Liam will pay us back. Everything will be fine. Everything will be perfect unless you open your mouth." I sat in the dark, listening to the desperate rationalization of a woman who had traded her integrity for an aesthetic. "If Marcus Sterling buys a hollow asset, the SEC will investigate," I explained, keeping my voice clinical, dissecting the reality she refused to acknowledge. "When they find the ghost servers, they will trace the funding. They will find the Nevada shell company. They will find Dad's mortgage. It's wire fraud, Mom. It's investor deception. If I stay quiet, I am complicit. If I stay quiet, Elise marries a man who is about to be indicted." "You don't care about Elise," Susan hissed, the venom finally breaking through the maternal facade. "You're just jealous. You have always resented him. You want us to lose everything just to prove a point." The emotional umbilical cord, frayed and degraded over 33 years of neglect, finally snapped. I felt nothing but a profound, liberating emptiness. "I am not breaking this family, Mom," I said. "I am just handing you the receipt for what you bought." I pressed the end call button. The screen went dark. The silence of the apartment rushed back in, clean and undisputed. I turned my attention back to the center monitor. While I had been on the phone, the extraction software had finished parsing the final encrypted logs from Liam's panicked login session. The red herring had paid off in ways even I had not fully anticipated. When Liam used his master admin token to override the compliance portal and delete his luxury expense reports, the Aegis system architecture required an automatic synchronization check. To alter a financial ledger, the master token had to verify its credentials against the active server state. Liam had rushed the process. He had bypassed the standard security protocols to scrub the Maldives receipts as fast as possible. In doing so, his irrevocable digital signature had been permanently stamped onto the active session logs. Those session logs included the corrupted directory housing the bot farm traffic. He had inadvertently left a glowing, undeniable fingerprint on the exact sector of the network where the fake traffic lived. He could no longer claim ignorance. He could no longer blame a rogue developer or a careless financial officer. The metadata proved that the master administrator knew the ghost servers were active and chose to bypass them to hide a petty theft. I highlighted the synchronization log. I dragged the file into the primary dossier folder. I initiated the final encryption sequence. The progress bar zipped across the screen. A small prompt appeared asking to finalize the package. I clicked the mouse. The button depressed with a quiet, satisfying snap. The file locked. The evidence was airtight. The digital architecture of Liam's ruin was now contained in a single portable format. I spent the next few hours sitting in the ergonomic chair watching the black sky outside my window slowly bleed into a bruised metallic blue. The fallout was swift and devastating. Liam was investigated, then indicted. The family home, the commercial properties my parents had leveraged, were all lost. The carefully constructed facade of their perfect family crumbled, exposing the rot beneath. Elise, Marcus Sterling's daughter, was spared the heartache of marrying a fraud. She later thanked me, quietly, for my courage. I was offered a senior position at Sterling Logistics, a role I accepted. I finally had a place where my quiet competence was not only recognized but celebrated. I built new systems, optimized global networks, and continued to be the ghost who solved impossible problems, but this time, openly and with integrity. The James family tragedy serves as a stark, unforgiving reminder that gravity is the ultimate auditor of our lives. You can dress a lie in expensive linen. You can introduce it to billionaires, and you can defend it with aggressive ultimatums. But eventually, the math will correct itself. The ledger always balances. As the years pass, one has to wonder what remains in the quiet, empty rooms of the house William and Susan lost. The echoes of clinking champagne glasses and practiced laughter have long since faded, replaced by the heavy, immutable silence of consequence. I walk free, unbound by the toxic hierarchy, building a life of undeniable substance and earned peace. But for those who are still caught in the performance, a lingering, uncomfortable question remains. When you look at the life you are constructing for your children, when you evaluate the values you praise at your own dinner table, what are you actually building? Are you laying a foundation of unshakable stone, rooted in honesty, fairness, and the quiet resilience to weather the truth? Or are you simply paying for a beautiful, fragile facade, holding your breath in the dark and hoping the wind never blows?